In this episode, I interview a woman who actually was at the opening day at Disneyland. Then a year later, she became an original Mouseketeer. I introduce to you Sherry Alberoni.
Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? Mickeymose, Mickey Mouse.
Donald Duck.
Mickey Mouse.
Donald Duck.
Forever let us hold our banner high.
Hi, hi, hi.
Come along and sing our song and join our family. Mickeymose.
Well, Sherry Alberoni, thank you so much for being on our program.
I'm honored.
We've been friends for a very long time.
Long time.
Yes. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, because this is kind of a show where we do career and background, but also how God works in our life. But I got to hear the story of how you got to be an original Mouseketeer, because I think it's such a fascinating story.
Well, it's kind of it kind of moves around a lot. I started working in show business when I was about 4 years old, and my mom had been a dancer in vaudeville, and back in Kentucky. So she had bronchitis, and the doctor said, "You've got to go west. You've got to go to Arizona or California." So they did, and real close to where we lived was a dancing studio. And my brother and I were always dancing. My mom always had music on in the house, and we were dancing to it. And I said, my aunt was there, and she said, "Sherry, do you want to be on TV?" And I said, "I'm not getting in that box." You're a super little kid. I don't know. So they explained it to me, and I said, "Okay." So I started going on interviews, and the way those would come up, there would be hundreds and hundreds of kids. And what all the studios did, when they had a part for a child, they would go around the country. They would, they'd look at little kids and some agent, "Your kids are cute. Would you like to put them in show business, to be on TV?" And my mom said, "Well, let me ask them." So we said, "Yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that." And so I started doing baby commercials and little modeling and things like that, and small parts. And then in 1955, Mickey Mouse Club came on. It started on October the 3rd, 1955. And it coincided with July 17th, which was the opening day of Disneyland. And so, one was built to back up the other. And so we would go down to Disneyland on weekends and do shows and all. But anyway, I got ahead of myself. My brother and I started doing little bits and pieces. And then they said, "Well, we're looking for some new Mouseketeers." And they told my agent that Sherry's a little young, but let's see Roy. So my mom took my brother Roy, who was 2.5 years older than I am, took him to the studio. And Walt Disney loved him and said, "But do you play any instrument other than the drums? Because we already have Cubby." And my brother said, "No, but I have a little sister who can play the trumpet and do a tap dance at the same time." So Walt said, I've got to see this. I've got to see that. It's hard to believe." Walt, laughed, as everybody did. And I used to have a lisp. And, when you're 6, 7, it was really cute. So the director was in there, and he laughed and laughed and had me say all these different lines with, using the letter S. And so anyway, they liked me. And I got the part. And that was Now we're talking into 56.
So on July 17th, 1955, you were at the opening of Disneyland. That's a big deal.
We go, my whole family, there are 10 of us, and we go, I would say, once a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we do. 'Cause we
So
love it. It's the happiest place on earth.
you're probably one of the few people in the world that could actually say they were there at the very opening.
Well, there's so many wonderful stories about that day, that opening. One thing was that, like I told you earlier, it was so miserably hot, and the women on opening day, they would wear high heels, and their heels would get stuck in the uh, asphalt, I guess it is, and this one guy and his wife, she's stuck, and they're trying to help her out, and there was a strike. The union told Walt that he could have his choice between water fountains and the the bathrooms. And he said, "Well, let's do the bathrooms." And he got his guys with big 50-gallon, things on their back of water and a bunch of cups. And they walked around offering water to the people. He said, "I think, they really need the water." The first day, it was fun. And we were just amazed. I remember my brother and I, everything was, there's a rocket ship, and look at that train. Everything was just amazing. It was amazing
Wow.
that they could come up with this stuff. I was a red feather kid for the state of California, and I had to sell, how the brownies would sell the cookies?
Right.
Well, we had to sell Thin Mints. The little campfire girls did that. So it was great fun, and I would, be out there, and then all times, my mom and dad would be at standing a few feet from me, and I'd be doing my sales pitch. Somebody would come by, and was the, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" type of thing. Yeah. And I said, "This is my last box, and then I can go home."
And you have
And
10 boxes over
yeah,
there.
right, exactly, exactly. So anyway, my prize for that, for selling all that candy, was to go to Disneyland on opening day.
Wow.
So I wasn't a Mouseketeer then. So my mom and dad and my brother and Roy and I all went to Disneyland, and it was. The traffic was terrible. The Santa Ana freeway, they were doing construction on it, and so we finally get there, and my prize, part of my prize, was to make an ice cream sundae for Walt Disney. They put me on an apple box behind the counter, and in walks Walt Disney. And it was so hot that day,
Ah.
miserably hot. And Walt had on a beautiful, I mean, I can see it, a beautiful gray silk suit. It was beautiful. And he comes in, and we shake hands, and he introduces himself to me. Oh, and he, we started smiling at there was lots of press there, and we're smiling and talking, and they're always saying, just one more, one more shot, one more shot. So finally, I'm handing the ice cream to Walt, and he's looking at it and looking at it, and then we're smiling, and all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye, it was melting all over that beautiful gray suit. And he laughed. He was, such a good, funny man. And then like I said, I got the job and reported to Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. And my mom didn't drive. So my dad would drive us to Annette's house in Encino. And Annette's mom or dad would drive us to the studio in Burbank. And it was it was make believe, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was just that studio. They were so good, and if any guy in the crew was heard to, say something off color,
Right.
he was gone the next day. They really protected us. We had wonderful teachers. We had to keep up a B+ average,
Wow.
and it was a magical experience.
So when you became an original Mouseketeer How did Walt treat you? And then how was the environment there? And then how did your friends treat you after you became a Mouseketeer?
Walt was very grandfatherly. He was on the set almost every single day, and he'd be standing, behind the camera in paint overalls, splattered with paint. Uh, and he would, he'd always, "Hi, kids, how you doing?" He'd come over and talk with us, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man. His whole family was, and it changed my life because it was such a popular show. I mean, everybody ran home and got their homework done and started watching Mickey Mouse Club at 4 o'clock,
Oh,
ABC, and it was. We had another interesting thing about it. If we had to go to the Board of Education every 6 months, and they would look at our fingernails and say, "Are you being forced to work?" They were really very good and careful with us, as I said earlier. But it was play. Like I said, it was playtime. We'd be sitting on the grass of the administration building, and I remember somebody brought some dice, one of the boys, and we're throwing dice against the wall, and we were always jump roping, always playing games. Roy would try to teach us how to draw. It was just a fun, magical group of kids, and some of them, you were closer to than others. Some of them you remain friends with. I mean, I'm still good friends with Cubby, and Cubby and I used to date when I was 19, and with Cubby and Sharon and Bobby and Tommy,
wow.
and we do shows on the Disney cruise ships, and whenever there's something opening at Disneyland, they call us to sign autographs. But now everything is Marvel,
Yes.
and all of that.
Walt sounds like Walt Disney really protected you from the negative side of Hollywood.
Very much so. Very much
Do
so.
you think he had an insight, or he just knew that he had to protect his kids?
I think both.
Mhm.
I think both. He, yeah, he was very kind, and he had children, and he built Disneyland because he wanted a place where grandmas and mothers and fathers and kids could all go and have a fun day
Right.
and not have any worries. And so he was very protective.
And what about your
Everybody.
friends during this time now?
Yeah, the kids at school. Once the show came on the air, they they would say, "Oh, I saw you on the Mickey Mouse Club, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse," that type of thing. Uh, but it was fun, and the kids were good about it. Uh, they were nice about it.
You tell a very funny story when Walt knew your name and
Oh,
you were wearing,
right,
this
my
is really
shirt.
funny. I gotta hear this story.
Okay.
This is really
Well,
funny.
our outfits, our uniforms had our names in 2-inch black letters, across the chest. And I'm walking with my mom, and he comes walking the other way with some of his people. And he looks and he says, "Hey, hi, Mouseketeer Sherry." And I squeezed my mom's hand. I said, "Oh, Mama, look, Uncle Walt knows my name." And she said, "Honey, he can read." And she, I didn't understand at the time.
You forgot.
Yeah, yeah,
Sherry's right here. So Sherry, what's the most favorite part of the show for you?
well, every day was a different day. There was fun with music. There was anything can happen day. The talent roundup. I mean, there were 5 different days, and I think my favorite was anything can happen because we didn't know what was going to happen, but we'd get to wear all these crazy costumes and come out singing and dancing. That's what I love to do. And I remember there was lots and lots of laughter on the set. Everybody was friends, and that was nice.
So there was I noticed that there was not a lot of egos with the kids. It was amazing.
Well, off stage, maybe.
Yeah, off stage, but on stage, but even off stage, was there a lot of drama off stage?
There wasn't a lot of friction, no. And see, Cubby, Karen, and I were the little ones. You know, the other kids, Annette and those kids, Bobby, they were all 13, 14 in there, and we were just 8, 9.
Right.
So we didn't have any friction, but it's like going to high school. There's some kids you like, some kids, eh.
Mhm.
It was pure fun,
Right.
and they made it be fun. And it was a most wonderful experience.
Did they feed you well?
Yes, we would all go over to the commissary, and big Mouseketeer Roy would get to take a napkin or turn over a placemat and draw pictures
Hmm.
on the and I've still got some of those. They're beautiful. Yeah, he had started off as an artist at the studio.
So he was an Imagineer, or they call it.
Imagineer, exactly.
And so how did you keep your faith life as a young Catholic girl, very young, 9 years old, and you're doing this and you're still keeping your Catholic faith. What's going on there? How are you doing this?
Well, my mom told me, sat me down one day, and she said, "Sherry, you've got an audition tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." So, and she said, "Now listen, I want you to remember on this audition, if you get the part, there's only one reason, and that reason is God. God wants you to get that part. If you don't get the part, one reason, God doesn't want you to get the part because he has something else for you." And I remember that, like, I could just see it in my mind's eye. I remember that was just the best thing that she could have ever said to me. And it was a job,
Mm,
not a life.
mm.
It wasn't my life. I mean, if I never worked again, no big deal. My dad was the breadwinner. You know, my mom cooked the bacon, my dad, brought it home. And my brothers and I were not loved because we were cute or talented or whatever. We were loved because we were their children. And yeah, so I remember her saying that to me. You know, it's not because she's special. It's only because of God. I can remember one poor little girl. You'd go on an audition and maybe 500 kids there. And one poor little girl, her mother grabbed her and said, "No, you listen to me. If you don't get this job, we won't be able to make the payments on the mortgage. So you got to get this job." My God, my mom and I were sitting there and listening to this, and it's horrible when it's like that. You have
Right.
to do it because it's fun. You want to do it. You want to, sing and dance and wear neat clothes and costumes and all of that. And the whole thing is a family.
Mm.
I think 100%. My brother was very grounded also. He was this great drummer, and he started a band and played every weekend, different clubs and bowling alleys and those kind of things. But we were just very normal, regular people. I'd come home from work, and I had to, make sure my bed was made, help my mom with the dishes and the laundry and whatever. And that's just, it's just what we did. That's all.
So what was your Catholic faith like in the family when you're working there at the studios and then coming home on what was your faith life?
It's funny. It makes me remember months. We went to public schools because the private Catholic school wouldn't allow me to dye my hair. And it was Monsignor O'Sullivan, who now I would love him. I would love everything about him. At the time, I didn't. And he would say to my mom, "Gertrude, get those kids out of that Hollywood." And we became friends. We became very good friends. But as far as my religion goes, I went to catechism every Saturday at Visitation in Westchester over by the LA airport. I remember wanting to be a nun. Yeah.
So why did you want to become a nun? What was the point that was making you, wow, I really want to become.
Well, when I look back on it, I remember I was the only little girl that raised her hand, and I think I did it because I didn't want the sister to feel bad. I do.
Was there any actresses that you saw in a film like, oh, that kind of inspired you thought about that nun looks really good? Like a, I'm trying to think of a famous movie with a,
Dolores Hart.
yes.
Yes.
Did you ever meet her?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
tell me about her and why she became a nun. What's her story with and how you did
Well,
she inspire you?
it was a no big deal. I mean, I just met her at the studio. Um, it's funny to add on to that. One time I was doing a show at Paramount. I had to go over to another set, and I walked in and I'm watching, and they're filming what turned out to be Star Trek.
Huh.
And these guys with the, the ears and all that, and I'm going, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, it'll never sell. Duh.
So with Dolores Hart,
Oh, yeah, 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 with Dolores Hart. She was just this, this beautiful girl, and she was sweet and nice, and God bless her. She's Mother Superior now, and
yeah, she still votes in the Oscars. So
oh
gets some,
yeah,
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 which I think
good,
is very
yeah, I do
funny.
too.
But so when you just rose your hand, there that's probably as far as it went in your discernment from the beginning.
Yeah.
When you go through high school, are you still known for Mouseketeer? Do people know who you are in high school, and you're still keeping your faith life going?
Yes, yeah. The way I l- the next year after that first show in the Mickey Mouse Club, Lou Costello bought my contract from Disney. Lou's daughter was Carol. And she used to watch the show, and she with her daddy, and she'd say, "Look, Daddy, that's the one I like, and you should hear her talk. It's really funny." And so Lou was getting ready to make the last film that he was going to make with Bud Abbott, and he needed to cast a little girl to play his adopted daughter. It was called Dance with Me, Henry. He said, okay, and he bought my contract from Disney. And so I left Mickey Mouse Club on a Friday and started Monday at Hal Roach Studios
Wow.
making this movie. So it was great. I never had that thing of, oh, I'm jobless. What am I going to do? So I was like, then I was like 8, 9, 10, I guess. And that was fun because those two characters were just like they were on the screen. That's how they were. That was and then that one, and then after that, I went to Columbia Studios where for 2 years, I think it was, I played Ed Wynn's
Hmm.
daughter or granddaughter on his TV show. And I look back and I go, wow, I really worked with some, fabulous people. So that was Ed Wynn's show. And then after that, they sent my mom and I to Europe, to Spain, and to England
Wow.
to film The Three Worlds of Gulliver. I was Glumdalclitch with the long braids and put my braid down a rabbit hole or something, and Gulliver would grab on, and I'd pull him out of the ferret hole or whatever it was. I don't know. And he and I was there for, I want to say, 6 weeks in Barcelona. We filmed, and it was with Kerwin Matthews, who was a great guy. He played Gulliver. Then from there came back, and then I did a lot of shows like the Donna Reed Show, Farmer's Daughter, Make Room for Daddy, Make Room for Granddaddy. Then after that, The Monkees, um, I Love Lucy. Just really all the different shows wherever they needed a little girl.
Right.
And it was fun. I was never in the same place too long.
So how are you keeping your ego in check doing all this stuff? Is it because your mom kept that word like this is because God wants you to have this
Mhm.
part? Is that help keep you in check like your whole career?
Yes, yes, completely. And that still goes to today.
Wow.
Anything I believe, anything that happens, it's got nothing to do with me. It's got
Do you
everything
ever
with the
pray for a
boss.
part, or you just like whatever happens
No,
happens?
whatever happens, happens.
So that's kind of like it's like this way of life. It's just,
Right.
yeah,
It was
that's just
just
the way it is.
exactly. And it was, to me, it was, I never saw my money. So in cases where I'd get a part, I would, I'd be really excited and fun, and it was nice. But I think because I know it was because of my mom, what she told me. And
So your family's very true. You could trust your family, your parents. Like obviously, you that girl's example where the mother said, "You are the reason why we're surviving."
right, right.
That's a lot of pressure for a kid. And so you didn't, you had the opposite. You just said, hey, just live life. We'll take
Exactly.
care of you. And they took care of you. You
Exactly.
trusted. They never took advantage of that.
No.
That's
And
amazing.
they were very, my father was Italian, my mother was Irish, and they were very down home.
Right.
You know, they were normal, regular people with normal, regular
What
kids.
was your dad's job?
He was a foreman at Jean Marie Bathing Suit Company,
Oh,
and I always, every season, I'd always get a whole bunch of new bathing suits, you know, the
that is
samples.
so funny.
So,
And your mother, she just was stay at home or did she have a job
no,
too?
she stayed home.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So now, so how is God working in your life after high school now? What's God directing you to do now?
I was doing a lot of different parts, you know, and I was still working, and I'd be gone from school for maybe a week, and then come back, and then gone for 2 days, and then come back. You know, if I was doing a commercial or
Right.
something, I look back and I look in my yearbook and say, I don't remember that one. I don't remember that. You know,
So when you leave high school, do you go to college?
I went 2 years to Santa Monica City
Santa Monica.
College.
Now, your husband.
Hmm.
So how did you meet? How's God working in this thing with you and Richard?
Well, he uh, he was from Salinas, and where all the lettuce and the vegetables are. And he was picking lettuce to try to make enough money to go to medical school. And I was working, and in Hollywood in show business. This is funny. And I uh, I was driving home. I used to drive a pearlescent pink Corvette. I wasn't shallow. Oh no. And I used to drive this car, and I was coming home with another girl from a show we had done in San Francisco for 76 Union gasoline or something like that. And we're driving home, and I get down to a town called Atascadero,
Yeah.
and I'm out of gas. I look to the right, and there's a Chevy station. I look to the I mean a Chevron, and to the left is a Shell station. And I look at my wallet. I have a Shell card, so I pull in, and this guy comes out. And you know, those were the days of everybody was long hair and bell-bottom pants, and you know, I didn't like any of that stuff. I was very square, and so I get out of my car, and I'm wearing this is terrible. I'm wearing this. I had this long fall on, bleach blonde long hair, and these big eyelashes, and I had on hot pants, and I had go-go boots on, and my friend and I, you know, I said, just you know, just a minute. And I get out of the car, and this guy comes up, and he's got the little shell, you know, they used to wear hats and bow ties and all that stuff. And he looks at me and goes, "You're not from around here." And I said, "No, I'm from Hollywood." Yeah. And so we just started talking, and he was so different. Like I say, he wasn't one of these strange, you know, hippie guys. And to me, they were strange. Uh, and so we started talking, and he said, "Well, I'm going to be down in Los Angeles next week. I'm going to go to on my way to Tijuana to buy firecrackers." That's what boys did in those days. And I said, "Well, you know, those were the days of Charlie Manson and all that.
Yes.
So I couldn't just go, oh, well, here's my phone number and my address. I wasn't going to do that." So I said, "Well, if you've got time, I will be at 1 o'clock on that Saturday. I will be playing first base for the Hollywood debutantes against the Hollywood Directors Guild. And we'll be at, there's a ball field or something at La Cienega and, you know, Wilshire, some streets." And he said, "Oh, okay, great. Well, the next thing I know, I'm out there on the field the following week, and up walks these three guys, and they were very, you know, short burr cuts. They looked like army guys, and Richard was with them with his two friends, and that was that was kind of it. And then he stayed and watched the game. Then we went to Tiny Nailers on La Cienega, and we went to, I said, "Well, now that you're here, you're in Hollywood, what would you like to see? Where would you like to go?" I figured I'd just show them, movie stars' homes and the studios. And they said, "We'd really like to go to the Museum of History," or that's what it was, National Museum of History. And I said, "Oh, I go there all the time." And he said, "Oh, okay, well, let's go
I got a
there."
membership.
Yeah, I've got a membership. And so we went over there and walked around and looking at everything, and we just kind of sort of paired off, and his two friends were walking around. And then we came home back to my mom's house. They followed me to my mom's house, and I left then. That was in October, I think, September, October. I went to Vietnam as a USO entertainer. And
Is that with that Bob Hope with you too?
yeah, then I went back a second time
Gotcha.
and did the Bob Hope show. And that was just,
So you and Richard are starting to date.
but he lives up in Davis, California.
Wow, that's a drive,
Yeah, that's a
especially
drive.
then.
Right. So we just would write letters and talk on the phone. And then he applied to medical school, and he got accepted at UCLA.
Wow.
And he had wanted to be a vet, and he was going to go to Davis. He was accepted there, and he turned that down. And he said, the dean said, "What are you, crazy? Nobody turns down Davis for veterinary school. What's wrong?" And Richard said, "Well, there's this girl." And the dean said, "Yeah, there usually is." So he moved over into West LA and went to UCLA, and so it made it easier to see each other.
Now, was he Catholic?
He was born in a Catholic. He was baptized Catholic, but he wasn't. He was, his father was in the army, and he went to military schools and military churches and all of that. He went to the army. Rich did when we got married, and we were married in Hacienda Heights, and then he went to the army, and
Did he go to medical school in the army?
no, 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 no. He finished off his medical school. He got a deferment because they would rather have doctors rather than medical students. So uh, he went to the army, and we were stationed in Kentucky, and which was great because all my relatives live in Kentucky. We came back after 2 years. So, yeah, I went to Vietnam before all of that because I went when I wasn't married.
Did Richard finish up his confirmation after getting
Oh,
married?
yes, yes, yes.
And then you have a story about Casey and her illness.
Mhm.
So how is God working in this and with the miracle that happened with that?
When Casey was Richard, he converted. He became a Catholic and turned me into a good Catholic. And
So he forced you.
yeah, I twisted my arm.
He just
No,
your own.
he was such a good religious Protestant. He knew the Bible backwards and forwards, and he was just such a good, decent person. And he said, I think he said to Monsignor Baird, he said, we were at dinner one time and with Monsignor, and he said, "Richard, someday I'm going to get you." And so Richard said, "Well, you know what? I just have a couple of questions, and you answer them right, and I'd love to become a Catholic." So Richard became a Catholic, made his Holy Communion and his confirmation. So that was after the army. So then Casey, when she was 10 years old, Casey started limping and complaining about her leg. And I said, "Oh, it's just a, growing pain." Well, it turned out that it was a lot more than a growing pain, that they thought she had Ewing sarcoma
Wow.
in her, up high in her hip on the inside. And they did the surgery. And the night before the surgery, we were in the Ronald McDonald House. And I tell you, I see these commercials now of these parents with those poor little children, and I know how they feel, and it's so heartbreaking. Well, that's kind of what we went through. So Casey, she was in the bed in the hospital, all the tubes and everything, and she's laying there. And Richard had called over to St. Vincent de Paul
Mhm.
and said, "My daughter's going to have surgery in the morning. Is there a priest that you could send over to come and bless her?" And the gal said, "Sure, I'll get somebody over there." So got to be about 2 a.m. Door opens and in walks a priest. And he was tall and had dark hair, wasn't you? But he, it could have been. Uh, and he didn't say anything to us. He just went over and he blessed Casey, came and blessed me and Richard, and turned and walked out. The next, Casey had her surgery the next morning, and it turned out to be benign.
Mm.
And I mean, they had told us don't buy Christmas presents because she's not going to be here.
Wow.
And it was just the most horrible, horrible experience. And she, a couple days later, Richard called back over to St. Vincent de Paul, and he talked to the gal, and she said, "Oh, yes, 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 Dr. Van Meter, I remember. I'm the one that you spoke with." And he said, "Well, I just wanted to thank the priest." And she said, "Well, I feel so terrible because I couldn't find a priest." She said, "I couldn't find a priest. It was the 4th of July weekend, and there was no priest." And Richard and I just looked at each other, both of us knowing who it was. And that's really,
So a guardian angel came into your daughter's room.
and that got us been to church every Sunday.
I've bet ever since. Wow.
Yeah,
So wow. So you have literally an apparition of a guardian angel coming in, blessing your daughter so that she can be
yeah,
healed.
right.
What was your prayer before that happened? What were you asking God? What were you
Oh,
telling Jesus?
everything from, "Oh, please don't let it be me and not my baby. Don't do this to her.
Are you bargaining?
Yeah. Oh, of course, I'm Italian.
Yeah. I'll make sauce for you every week.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, it was just a horrible, horrible time. But we knew who it was. Yeah,
I'm shocked. I did not know that was we didn't send a priest,
yeah,
and you're like, that's impossible.
right.
We saw
We saw him.
and you actually saw a guy walk in as a priest.
Yeah, we both looked up, and then just kind of closed our eyes and kind of went back to sleep. And I mean, it was. I don't guess it was an apparition. To us, it was a miracle, and we thank God
Well, it
every
definitely is
day.
a miracle.
Yeah.
And so she's obviously still cancer free because she's
Yes.
around.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Right.
And
Yeah.
did Casey decide to work for the church after that because of that miracle, or what
Uh,
happened there?
well, she does work out at the St. Michael's Abbey. She's been out there since, gosh, 2000, oh, forever, like
Right.
2008 or something. And she was raised in Catholic schools, and no, it didn't. She was young, and it didn't really hit her
Right.
like it hit us.
Right.
And they had to put her in a full body cast. And Richard would go off to the office, and Kelly and I would put our arms, and, get her in a lock and pull her off the bed, and take her to the little ladies' room. And we it brought us so close together. It was,
That's a bona fide miracle. You're actually looking at a legit miracle, and that changes people
oh,
forever.
forever.
And you can't live differently after that. Is your
No.
Catholicism like going off the charts now? You're praying
Oh,
rosaries and you're going to mass every Sunday.
yes.
So what else are you doing in your faith life after this
Oh,
happens?
well, we joined the Order of Malta.
Yeah, I would love to hear about this. Tell me about this
Yes.
Order of Malta. How did you find the Order of Malta after this miracle?
Someone told us about it. And we went to a meeting, and their mission is to take care of the poor and the sick.
Mm.
Well, that fit in with with Richard, with being a doctor,
Right.
and we started then going to Lourdes.
You go to Lourdes, France, and you're bringing sick people there? Is that what's happening?
Yes, yes, yes. We're with the Western Association, and we take about 50 terminally ill or seriously ill.
Mm,
We call them malades.
okay.
To France and help them with the baths and just have all sorts of beautiful masses. And I was diagnosed 8 years ago with breast cancer, and this last time when we went, which was this last May, I came back. I had my PET scan, and I'm completely cancer free.
Wow.
So
You're 2 for 2. Your daughter and then
yeah,
you.
and then
Wow.
me, and that's something.
It's funny. You were bringing people, and then you said, "Okay, I'm going to bring myself
Yeah,
now."
exactly.
So you. So okay, Lord. Now it's my turn.
Right, right. That's exactly how it was, and it that really changed me a lot.
Mm,
It really did, and there was in our group, in our association, I think we had like 300
wow.
knights, dames, uh, and Richard. we uh, we had all these wonderful, wonderful people, kind and good, nice people, and my yeah, when the Europeans are mostly royals that
Right.
come over there, and they're princess, whatever, and
Hmm.
duchess, whatever, and we. Richard said, "Oh, this is great." He said, "That's you're royal." I said, "I am." I thought, he said, "Yeah, you're the queen of my heart." No, he said, "Yeah, you're a pain in the, a royal pain in the, you know." Uh, but this last trip was just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
So you started when you went to the Order of Malta. Do you remember any person that you had brought with that went to Lourdes that was cured of anything, or
My girlfriend's daughter had leukemia, and she went with the leukemia, and she was just a little girl. She was 10, and she made a promise to Mary. She said, "Mary, if you cure me, I promise I'll come every year as a volunteer." And she's been every single year.
wow?
Yeah. So the miracles, people come and they expect to see, an arm grow
Right,
or
yeah.
something, and that isn't how it works. Sometimes the miracle happens to the chaperone, the person that goes with them, and there's all sorts of miracles.
What's your conversation with Jesus now after your miracle?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, God, for everything that you do for me and for my family. Forgive us for our sins. Uh, and every day I say uh, an act of contrition,
Mm,
and I say that maybe 3 or 4 times, and it's the last thing I say at night before I fall asleep.
mm.
And I think I do that because if I should die in my sleep, I want the last words on my lips to be an act of contrition.
Jesus, forgive me for my day. Then you had this beautiful medal here. I want to hear that story.
This is a Santa Cristoforo Protectimisia. I probably didn't say that right, but it says Saint Christopher protect me. And my first trip to Rome, my parents bought it for me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was only 16 back then. Uh, and then my daughter Kelly, she got married in Rome. She got married in the Vatican.
So tell me that story. How did that happen? Who did you have to call to get that to happen?
Bishop McFarland was wonderful and helped us. Monsignor and Abbot Hayes came to the Vatican to perform the ceremony. Uh,
You had to twist their arm, whatever your platform is, whether it's being a doctor or being a star throughout your whole life. You're doing various shows. You can use that platform for good.
right,
And you always hear the other side of the story of Hollywood and all the actors and the bad stuff. But you, in a certain sense, you and Richard have been able to take that gift and then to build up the kingdom of God. So that's
exactly,
very, very good.
exactly.
That's great. Well, I can't thank you enough for this great experience. I think we captured stuff that is probably has never been captured before in any interview of an original Mouseketeer. So it's been a huge blessing.
Aw,
We're thankful for God giving you your daughter Casey. We're thankful for God bringing you and bringing healing to you and your daughter and your husband, all the great work he does as a doctor at the Abbey, and your daughter Kelly, who's doing great things and getting married off at the Vatican and all that kind of fun stuff. And we just really thankful for the joy you bring everybody. And we
thank
all
you.
know that Mouseketeers always bring joy and always bring smiles to all generations. And so we're very thankful for you bringing joy to all of us. So thank you. God
Thank you.
bless you.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. MIC, see you real soon. KEY, why? Because we like you. MOUSE. Bye, bye everybody, bye kids. So I would just walk up to the camera and look into the camera with a great big smile and say, Sherry. Exit stage left.